The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour.
ChatGPT did become the world's most downloaded non-gaming app.
Literally the job of everyone in government to address the media and the public.
What are your thoughts, audience? What are your thoughts on Zandy Silva as the deputy PLP leader?
A community that can't feed itself is a community that doing.
What you may not know, though, is that Bermuda, we have a connection with Epstein, too.
Things that people are doing right, the youth are doing right, that is not being advertised enough.
When you see your access to US dollars disappear, that's when you have a problem.
You've got a town in the UK with a similar sized population. This place absolutely outshines it.
It's Tuesday, the 10th day of March, 2026. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. This is the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, HSBC, Bermuda Medical House, Lindo's, People's Pharmacy, and big love to Hot 107.5, ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations. I'm Jamal Hartman. He's Taj Dunville, Otterbridge, and we'll have a news break from Teo Dill in a bit. How's everyone feeling today? Taj, how was your weekend?
Good, busy. Full of dissertation work still, so we're still in that period.
Okay. You know what's crazy? I'm asking how was your weekend? Like, I didn't see you yesterday, and we didn't do
exactly.
Right? Hey, not everyone was privy. Did everyone, audience? Did you all get to catch our special yesterday about the CARICOM green paper announcement? If you haven't, you can find it. Go on our YouTube channel. You can check it out. It will. It was pretty much just encouraging you to read the green paper. Yes. Taj and I gave some examples of some feedback based on what we saw in the green paper, I should say. But yeah, hopefully you all got check it out. Claire Warner says, "Good morning, Bermuda. Good morning to you, and a happy Tuesday to you, Claire Warner." All right, folks. Well, greetings, everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today as we welcome the Minister of Home Affairs, the Honorable Alexa Lightbourne, on. We're going to be discussing the green paper and Bermuda's move toward CARICOM. The daily play is going to be a remember when. Yep, it'll be a remember when. Don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Taj, when I'm in Bermuda, I don't really work out, right? So I did pretty well. I didn't eat that much fried fish, a little salad here and there. Yesterday, I haven't eaten anything since Sunday night. So I was just, water and lemon. And, someone was like, yeah, you should do 2 days. I'm like, I'm very disciplined, but I'm not crazy. And I know myself. Like, you tell me do 2 days, then I'm going to junk food it up. But I tell people, man, honestly, Kamal Dickinson said it recently when he was on, spoke about exercise and diet. And, he was saying, what you put into your body, your diet's more important if you're trying to, be healthy than working out. Working out's really about muscle and so on. So I don't feel, I had a little headache late yesterday, but I'm okay, folks. I'm surviving. I've got my lemon water here. And then after the show, I'll probably have some oatmeal and blueberries. All right. I look like I'm a little fit, and today just need some grace. All right. But let's go. Sean Smith says, no, did not realize Bermuda time changed. Let's talk. Taj, back in the day, we used to get all sorts of warnings and about the time. Do you know? I didn't see anything. Someone just said on Saturday to me when I was leaving Bermuda, oh, don't forget the time changes tonight. That was the first I heard.
Same. And here as well, the time changed the same day. And it took me off guard because in the UK, it's at the end of March.
Right.
So it's a different time for the UK. So it threw me off too, because I didn't see nothing on the news about it or nothing.
Nothing.
That's what my grandma told me.
But you know what's crazy? I think now because they think everyone is so digital, like, oh, the phone updates on its own. Yes. And like, there's no real analog clocks. People just assume, oh, they'll wake up and see it's a new time. first off, not everyone is digital, folks. I think that's crazy. But yeah, I say that, Sean, because honestly, I thought about it last night. There's no real conversations or public announcements made about it anymore. Suzanne Ingham says, happy Tuesday, Jamel and Taj. It's a super awesome day to be alive and in TDH House. No, I didn't get a chance. Yes, it's on YouTube. So if you do get a chance, folks, check it out. All right, well, let's here's your questions for the morning. What are your thoughts on an education authority as an option to improve the system? And do you think Bermuda needs an independent education authority? Folks, you've heard us with these conversations lately on this very program about the state of education. But, you know, another education reset, is that what we're talking about? You know, Bermuda's education system may once again be heading toward another major structural change. A draft bill to create an education authority has now been completed and is about to enter the consultation phase, according to government officials during the debate in the House of Assembly. The junior, and that's coming from the Royal Gazette, folks, the junior Minister of Justice, Dennis Lister III, said the legislation has gone through several rounds of discussion, and this next step is consultation with teachers, unions, school boards, PTAs, and other stakeholders before the final version is brought forward. Now, the idea of an education authority is not new. In fact, it has been part of the broader education reform conversation in Bermuda for years. The goal, at least on paper, is to create a body that oversees education in a more strategic way and focuses on improving outcomes for students. But here's where the debate begins. One of the biggest criticisms in the past has been that education in Bermuda is too political. Opposition leader Ben Smith has argued that any education authority should be independent from government to remove politics from the classroom, something that was not confirmed in this latest announcement. And this announcement also comes after years of controversy surrounding education reform, including the $8.4 million contract with Overseas Consultants Innovation Unit, now known as Third Story, a contract that has now ended. At the same time, some of the most controversial parts of education reform, including school closures, have been paused by the current Minister of Education, Crystal Caesar. So the question now becomes, is this new education authority the next step toward fixing Bermuda's public school system, or is it just another reset in a long series of reforms that have yet to deliver the results families are looking for? Because at the end of the day, the real issue isn't governance structures. The real issue is whether Bermudian students are leaving school prepared for the world. And recent exam results showing students performing below international averages suggest the work is far from finished. So, the questions of the morning, audience. Again, what are your thoughts on an education authority as an option to improve the system? And do you think Bermuda needs an independent education authority? What are your thoughts? Something tells me you have a lot to say on this topic.
Yes. I think the first thing I'll say is that education is fundamentally political. It always has been and it always will be. So I think the idea that we can somehow remove politics from education is a flawed idea. I think politics is necessary in education. I think political education is necessary. So education will always be political in some sense. Because it's a tool of empowerment. It's a tool of climbing the social ladder, of climbing the financial ladder, and so it will always be political. I think it's an issue that's long overdue. I think the biggest question I have for the previous minister and the current minister would be the Education Authority was on the PLP's platform for several elections. It's been on the OBA's platform for several elections also. The question I would have is, why wasn't the authority created and tasked with leading the reform so that people would have trust in the system already? So, like, why would the ministry, given its bad relationship with teachers, students, and the public, pursue reform instead of creating the Education Authority to pursue the reform? And that way it could have been more accountable to the public, could have been more democratic in its operating, it could have been more inclusive. So that's what perplexes me about this whole reform, is that if the Education Authority was always the goal, then it should have came first. If they put the cart before the horse in this instance, I think.
That's a good point. It's I'm going to compare it to what I know. It's like tourism, right? Why, if you're looking for a new CEO, why hire other C-suite executives first?
Exactly.
Right? It's ridiculously stupid, and it gives me a sense that the education authority is still going to be run by the politicians, if that's the case.
I think the Board of Education is the structure. I think the Board of Education is there and is meant to have the power to hire, set policy, think strategically, etc. It's been stripped of a lot of that power, and it's not been allowed to act kind of independently in the way it should be acting. I don't know if we need a separate education authority, but as I mentioned to Jamal earlier, I read the Hopkins report over the weekend, which was from 2007. It was a study commissioned by then Minister Randy Horton on the issue of education reform. And one of the key recommendations was the creation of an executive board that would have real teeth. So converting the Board of Education into a board that would have real teeth to hire, set policy, etc. And I think that is something that is worth exploring over a fully independent authority, because with independence comes a lack of accountability, I think. Like we see what is happening with the Bermuda Tourism Authority. What is the public accountability? What accountability can the public exercise over the Bermuda Tourism Authority, over the BEDC, over the Bermuda Hospitals Board? So we have these quangos, but that removes independent authorities, removes public accountability, doesn't give the public accountability.
That's a very valid point. And again, speaking to what I know, because you all think I pick on them, just using the Bermuda Tourism Authority, I remember while I was there saying things like, man, if Dr. Brown was tourism minister and we did some of this stuff, it'd be on the front page of the paper. It did remove, and I'm going to say it, man, the BTA had one of the best spin doctors Bermuda has ever produced in Glenn Jones. So he made everything look so good, Yes. But the truth is, an authority hasn't proven to work in tourism, in my opinion. And I know a lot of OBA and white supporters and supporters of them would say, oh, it was perfect before politics got in it. Here's the thing: politics was always in it.
Exactly.
The first chairman was David Dodwell, a man who Bermudians said they no longer wanted as a politician when Zandy Silva whooped him up in 2007.
Yes, exactly.
And from there, the other decisions were political. I will beg people to ask how Kevin Dallas was actually appointed.
Yeah.
Ask questions. So don't, I hate the idea. Maybe it's because the PLP haven't had great PR as well to actually fight back on that, or they just don't care.
Yeah.
Act like it's politically driven. No. Do I agree with the premier naming a sitting MP as the chairman? No, I said it then, I'll say it now, and I'm sure he even regrets that at this point, right? But the education authority, if the BTA is anything to go by, it will be no different. It will be no different. And guess what? Based on what Todd said, nothing will change. It will just be a new organization, a couple new titles for people, and the same reforms we'll be discussing.
Yes. So it's not the mechanism by which we reform. That's not the issue. The issue is the problems with education that have existed for 20 years. I read the Hopkins report. The same issues then are the same issues now a decade later. And so clearly governance reforms to the system are not the answer. So we need to start having conversations about a different answer. I think one of the key challenges that has always existed for me, and I've always said it, and even in my articles, is that I fundamentally don't understand why the Minister of Education and the permanent secretary for the Ministry of Education, there's no requirement for them to have education background, not in education policy, not as a teacher, not as a principal. So Diallo, the former minister, went to private school even. And so you have a minister that went to a private school in Bermuda informing public education policy. And you have previous ministers, a long list, because education has had probably one of the highest turnovers of ministries in Bermuda since Lord knows when. And so when you look at all the ministers back until the 90s, you see that there's no formal education on education policy amongst any of them. There's a requirement that the Attorney General has to be a lawyer. There's a requirement that the Minister of Finance has to have some financial understanding. Why isn't the same for education and even health? I would extend it to
I was
health.
going to say health. We have a lawyer as the health minister, but I didn't want to go there because you already, you all think I have something against them when I kind of yet say it live on air. But no, that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. And I don't think it's the same as I don't think a minister of education who was a teacher, I don't think that leads to corruption, like maybe telecommunications minister owning a radio station.
Right,
so I don't think that it's the same kind of thing. Because I remember asking, why don't we have ministers with, reflecting their backgrounds? And, I was said, well, if you have a doctor who's Ministry of Health and they own a practice, it could lead to corruption. But education, there's no such thing, in my opinion. It can't. Like, you don't own the school. Are you favoring one school over another? Like, it's not the same. Audience, again, this is your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. What are your thoughts on an education authority as an option to improve the system? And also, just a yes or no. Do you think Bermuda needs an independent education authority? Well, Sean Smith, I think he's aligned with you, Taj. He says, why not use the recommendation to fix the Department of Education? Let's touch on that, because you mentioned that the Hopkins report, which was, again, when Taj mentioned it to me prior to the show, I'm like, man, I remember reading that when I was at Hot 107.5, and that was 2007 to 10 I was there. And I think his question is along the lines of what Taj is saying. Like, we have all these reports done.
Yes.
We don't seem to take the recommendations from them. And guess what? Nearly 20 years later, not only are we dealing with the same problems, but they've bloated.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you, audience. Sean Smith goes on to say, as long as it's funded by government, it will always be political.
Exactly.
I don't know why, and this is what annoys me about some folks when they're like, oh, the BTA is political. It's always been political.
Yes.
I mean, stop it. And if you want it to be, not, I mean, I remember, and I'm going to say it, the white folks within the Bermuda Tourism Authority when I was there saying, oh, well, we don't get our money from the government. I'm like, you get 80 to 90% of your funds from the government. Back then, it was probably more.
Yeah.
But one thing I've realized, right? And I think it was Phil on our team sent me something last night. And it's so chaotic that this is the way the world works. And we're probably guilty of it, Taj, yourself and me.
Mm-hmm.
But we really, if you only ever look at Fox News,
mm-hmm.
if you only ever look at, what's it, MSN now instead of MSNBC, if you only ever look at what makes you comfortable, then your thoughts are really not as free and open as you think.
Exactly.
And I think the challenge with this is we lack the ability to have open minds to think beyond what we believe. And so this education authority, in my opinion, if the idea is that on the PLP side, we're going to move towards an authority to make it independent, or we're going to appoint or have the minister oversee it, or bring one of our political friends to oversee it, the other side is going to say it's political, right? But that other side, when the BTA was created, and the first chairman, an ousted politician,
mm-hmm.
right? Okay, he's a hotelier, they're going to say. Well, the PLP can name an educator. You see where I'm going with this?
There are many in the PLP.
you feel me? So unless we take our political bias out of it, truly, we're no different from the other. And guess who gets lost and forgotten in all of this, Taj?
Young people. That's the key part. Like, and that's also what I wanted to mention, was that even in the statement that the junior minister mentioned, he said parents, teachers, PTAs, and other stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers, parents, PTA. Nowhere in the first and most primary stakeholder for education must be students. So if your goal is not to consult with students first, then you're already gonna mess up. If young people don't have a seat on this proposed education authority, we're already gonna fail. If young people students do not have no position on the board of authority, on the education board of education. And I've always said that there should be 2 or 3 seats on the board of education for students. because they know what the experience is like. And I'll say this as well, because I hear a lot of people talking bad about public education. I went to public school, so did Teray. And we all know, like, we see where we are. And so, like, I question the idea that private schools are inherently better, because I would say the quality of my education was similar, if not on par with that of my private school peers. In fact, I think I got a better breadth of education than they did, because they didn't learn about Bermuda history in private school. They didn't learn about a lot of history in private school. They also didn't get the opportunity to do dual enrollment, which I got the opportunity to do because I went public school. And it helped me a lot. And I have to shout out some teachers that made a huge impact on me. So Miss Laylaw was the first math teacher I had, one of the first math teachers I had at Clearwater, spent extra hours on weekends to help us take the IGCSE early. So I took the IGCSE early in middle school, along with several of my peers. Miss Bowers, Sandra Bowers at the Bark Institute, Miss Joycelyn Ming, French teacher, worked with me and a couple other students to take the French IGCSE early. Miss Michelle Morris, who is social studies teacher at Berkeley and one of the advisors for Youth Parliament. Miss Ming Bean, an art teacher at Clearwater, and Mr. Shields, who was on the show the other day with Pocket Change. So I think to question the quality, I have a challenge with that. When people question the quality, I think the issue is opportunity, and it's at the issues at the ministry level and with opportunities that are afforded to young people. I would challenge the idea that the education is not good.
Well, I don't disagree, Taj. Also, I'm not as, intellectual as the aforementioned Taj and Teray folks, but I also was publicly educated all through, by the way. And I echo what he's saying. I think, though, when we do averages, they're including so many more people than in private institutions, right? So I think we have to take that into context, that every and anyone is attending a public school versus private schools. It's like
it's selected.
Accepted. Private schools don't. And I think that's the big difference. But the idea that public school students are horrible or can't produce anything.
Exactly.
Honestly, it's not true.
And that's the narrative that's going to come from this. That's what I wanted to say, because that's the narrative that's going to come from. We already heard people saying that we've lost a generation, et cetera, et cetera. That's the narrative that's going to come. Businesses are going to say, I can't hire someone who went public school during this time because the education they received was not good compared to what the private school children received. That's what young people are going to face when they go out into the work world.
I would hope that's not the case. And this is no disrespect. I don't say this to be disrespectful. But you will encounter in your life, Taj, people who did go to private institutions in Bermuda, and you will wonder, wow, how they make it here. And I don't say that in a disrespectful, audience. I'm simply saying that it will become apparent that it definitely was a paycheck versus an education of certain level of quality that was received by this person. No, every student is going to learn differently, different environments. I'm going to be real with you. Some students will do better in private school settings, while some others may thrive better in public school settings. At the end of the day, regardless of the setting, I think we as a community have a responsibility to ensure that everyone in our community, every child has access to a quality education. And whether that means that an independent authority comes or not, quality education is something that the taxpayers pay for. They pay for it. You pay for it. Let's go to these final few comments. Folks, it's your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Suzanne Ingham says, independent authority as long as there's a mix of people and absolutely no connections to government. People completely independent where gov is attached, they control. I think that's impossible, to be honest.
Yeah, it's impossible in Bermuda. It's definitely impossible in Bermuda. There is no way that you're going to get that.
Yeah. I hate to, be the bearer of bad news, but I'll let Taj said it last. But the Crystal Life says the stakeholders need to be invested. The young people have the best view. Goes on to say the authorities should include all people that received education in public or private. Indeed. And I'm glad she said that, because The authority should oversee education. Period.
Yes.
I
It should set the national standards for education and includes private schools.
Indeed. Folks, this is your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Before we go to give them thanks, just a quick yes or no, based on this conversation, do you think Bermuda needs an independent authority? Yes or no? Taj, what are your yes or no?
I am not sure that an education authority is the way. I think there can be things done with the current system that were recommended in the Hopkins report that I think could make a difference. I worry about the accountability part of an authority. That would be my major reservation.
Okay. So you're a no. Sean Smith is a no. Maybe I'm scarred by my experience within the Bermuda Tourism Authority, but my answer, honestly, do I think Bermuda needs an independent education authority? No. We just need to enact what's been recommended to improve the education system. Glenn O'Ban says no. Okay, so there's no yeses out here. Any educators out there, we'd love your response. Let's give some thanks to Titan Express and Secure. Then we'll go to the news break. Then our first commercial break. Don't forget, we've got the Honorable Minister, Alexa Lightbourne, coming up. We're talking about the Green Paper and CARICOM.
The daily discussion is brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Titan Express delivers safe, professional, and reliable transportation and tours across the island. From island tours to cultural experiences, they set the standard. And Secure is your go-to for property management, waste management, and residential and commercial services. Visit securebda.com. Professional, punctual, and reliable service is their commitment to you.
People's ACW, located at King Edward VII Memorial Hospital, carries over-the-counter medicines, toys, cards, and even toiletries. Our knowledgeable staff are there whether you're at emergency, visiting family, or a member of BHB staff, to show you our best even when you're feeling your worst. People's ACW, we're here for you.
Take a look at our workwear for construction workers and tradesmen. Durable, stretchable in all the right places and plenty of options for tools and accessories. Paired with our wide range of tough and comfortable footwear, you can't go wrong. As you can see, Medical House really is a one-stop shop for everybody. We can't wait to see you.
See it all at our new expanded location on Bakery Lane.
Discover Drop It, your go-to grocery delivery. Browse and select from a wide range of groceries, from fresh produce to daily essentials. Our friendly drivers deliver fresh groceries to your door fast, saving you time and hassle. With Drop It, you get fresh groceries delivered fast, so you can focus on what really matters. Drop It, freshness at your doorstep, delivered to your door with Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
What lasts isn't what you buy, but what it becomes. With the HSBC MasterCard credit card, every spend quietly adds to a story shaped by intention and offers what matters most. Support that meets you where you are. Protection that preserves what you choose. Confidence for the unexpected. Peace of mind wherever your story leads. Start your next chapter. Use your card today. HSBC is licensed to conduct banking and investment business by the Bermuda Monetary Authority.
What if the age that really matters isn't the one on your ID? You probably know your chronological age, the number of candles on your last birthday cake. But there's another kind of age that may be even more important, your biological age. This reflects how old your body truly is at the cellular level. It is influenced by your genes, your environment, and the choices you make every day. Two people can both be 40 years old on paper, but one may have the body of a healthy 30-year-old, while the other is biologically closer to 50. The difference? lifestyle choices on nutrition, sleep, stress, exercise, and exposure to toxins. That means you have some control over your biological clock. And that's exactly what makes it so powerful. Because when it comes to aging, it's not just about living longer, it's about living better. Want to know your predicted biological age today? Download the free CariGenetics app and fill in the lifestyle questionnaire.
Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. Taj Don Bridge. I'm Jamel Hartman. This is the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, HSBC, Bermuda Medicals, Linda's People's Pharmacy, and big love to Hot 175 for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations. Folks, do not forget to subscribe on our website, thedailyhour.com. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. All right, folks, let's get to it. Let's give a warm TDH welcome. We've got the Honorable Minister in the house, Alexa Lightbourne, Minister of Home Affairs. Folks, if you haven't already, it's okay, but hopefully by the end of this conversation, you'll have some direction as it relates to the green paper on CARICOM. But let's give a warm TDH welcome to the Honorable Minister, Alexa Lightbourne, Minister of Home Affairs. Oops, not that one, sorry. Did you hear it? Okay. Ooh, I want to do that to the minister.
You weren't a DJ in your previous life, were you?
Not a DJ. No.
Good morning.
And a happy Tuesday to you, Minister. How are you?
Happy Tuesday to you too. I'm doing well. Rough start to the morning, but we're here. We made it.
Yeah, I hope that siren didn't add to your morning woes, but
No. Small thing.
You've been in the spotlight. For the last 24 hours. I've had to scan social media to see what people are, saying about CARICOM and the like. But let's start here. Let's start here. Bermuda has been an associate member of CARICOM since 2003, and the government is now consulting on possible full membership. What is the central case you want Bermudians to seriously weigh as they review the green paper?
Absolutely. Thank you. I must first acknowledge the work of those who have been in this role or been in proximity to this core issue for a long time. And so the Honorable Dame Jennifer was the Premier at the time and brought the historic motion to the floor of the House of Assembly to begin to deepen our ties with CARICOM. At that time, we were able to progress from observer status to associate membership status. And so for me, it is around continuing our evolution. I don't know anything that is not yet evolved. We no longer use landline, or not as much at least. We're now moving to mobile devices. We're using technology more and more. And so I think what I am applying in this context is the fact that we're evolving our relationship with these organizations that are similar to us, have representation just like us, and we want to ensure that we are considered in a meaningful way. I want the green paper for those in the public that are reading it and unsure about, what is this all about? It is a invitation to understand not only the connections that we've historically had with these islands, but also to reimagine the relationship that we've had with them and how we could deepen our understanding, deepen our successes, share challenges, and combat them successfully together.
Indeed. I'm sure you've seen some of the political or responses to this, political opinions as well. A lot of people have been asking and will continue to ask in practical terms, is there an estimated annual economic gain from full membership? And should the decision even be measured mainly in dollars and cents?
And so my response to, a question that says, what are the benefits? How do we quantify this? Is that it is not one or the other, it's actually and. We should have acknowledgement of the fact that there are connections that we can't actually quantify. The fact that we have, 50% or more of Bermuda's heritage has links to St. Kitts and Nevis, for example. We recently went to St. Kitts, engaged with the group of those who are Bermudians or who would have decided to retire in St. Kitts, who were like, look, I had never come to St. Kitts, and when I came here, I realized like, wow, this is a bit of home for me as well. People would even note that St. Kitts is kind of it reminds them of Bermuda as well. And so I think what that represents is that there are unquantifiable connections and bonds that we must acknowledge. It does not also then say that we must diminish our economy. We shouldn't diminish things that don't add value to our context, i.e. preserving international business. We know that that's very important. We are now kind of moving into a singular pillar economy, and we acknowledge that. We value their role, but they too have evolved in our place in these Caribbean islands, so that must be acknowledged and also accepted. So they saw value in also being present in multiple jurisdictions. But I think what it does for Bermuda is that it opens up a way of reimagining ourselves even, and how we also play a role in global and geopolitical environments in a more sustained and more prominent way. So in short, it is not reduced immediately and exclusively to dollars and cents, but I think it's a conversation that says, how do we diversify our economy? How do we look at imports differently? And how can our sister islands and those who are in the Caribbean who have actually navigated these things more successfully than us learn from us, and likewise us learn from them?
Audience, if you have any questions or comments for the minister, you can send them through and we'll get through as many as we possibly can. Again, for those tuned in on the radio, we are speaking with the Honorable Minister Alexa Lightbourne. We're speaking about the green paper that the government has made public as of yesterday. Go ahead, Todd, sorry.
Yes. So shifting gears a bit to one of the most, I think, contentious issues of CARICOM is immigration. So the government has said there's no desire for Bermuda to adopt freedom of movement for CARICOM nationals.
Yeah.
What kinds of reservations or caveats would Bermuda likely need, and how do you think other CARICOM members would receive those limitations?
Thanks for the question. It's very pertinent. I think, we have presented to CARICOM a non-traditional way of deepening our engagement. The reality is most other and every other save Montserrat full CARICOM member are sovereign countries. We are not, but we do recognize that there is value in deepening our relationships and our ties. And so what we are presenting to them of the 239 reservation or treaty provisions, we have said, look, we've looked at our letter of entrustment. We understand that the UK has standing and jurisdiction over security, immigration, also not immigration in terms of our domestic laws, but rather security, foreign affairs, and the like. And so what we are seeking to do is present to CARICOM ways that we can positively engage with the spirit of the treaty provisions here, and also honoring our entrustment provisions. So specifically to immigration, we recognize that we're a small jurisdiction and we cannot just, open our borders and be able to invite persons to come on island. We accept that, and we've been clear with the fact that we will maintain our immigration, domestic laws and current provisions, which sees the fact that if there are jobs that Bermudians are unable to fill, we will then be able to find a mechanism to be able to promote and advertise those to those who may be CARICOM nationals in a specific way. But the ability to just open borders is not one that we recognize. Because of our size, we can just wholesale accept.
So you mentioned it briefly, but some critics argue with the entrustment letter that the UK still holds some final constitutional authority on the decision-making ultimately. So then is Bermuda's increased influence in regional politics could be overstated? How much power and positionality will Bermuda realistically gain from full membership?
So right now, Bermuda is in the room, but not part of the discussions. And so realistically, most of the discussions that are happening around the CARICOM tables at these forums are issues that also impact us here at home. And so the reality is, how do we deepen our ability to share the things that will impact us, share our concerns that will ensure that Bermuda's voice is also accounted for. And the question also becomes, well, where is our voice considered in a very specific way? And so, I have not as yet been familiarized with a forum that has Bermuda as a substantive member, and also as being able to have voting rights and also have a more material way of contributing. And so in the CARICOM context, I think this is a avenue that we can deepen our standing, deepen our ability to influence how decisions are made on a global level. And I think that it's a great opportunity for us to just reimagine our voice, reimagine what is important to us and how it's best advocated for outside of Bermuda's shores.
Sorry. Go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
Oh, I was muted. Sorry. I think one of the other main concerns here is around the geopolitics, especially with what's going on right now in the region and with the US. So how do you answer to people who worry about Bermuda's full membership could become an indirect way for the UK to extend influence inside CARICOM and any other geopolitical concerns that could arise?
I mean, these are real concerns, and I do give space to the fact that we must be able to answer questions. I don't think that any organization is perfect. I don't think that there will be any perfect decision. But what I do think is that Bermuda ought to be able to have greater influence over decisions that matter to them and that matter to us here at home. And so the geopolitical environments are moving quite quickly. I am not a fortune teller, so I cannot predict the future. But what I can say is that based on my recent experience, for example, attending the 50th convening of the heads of government, so the regular meeting that they have twice a year with all associate members and full members of CARICOM, there were discussions that the topics would have impacted Bermuda, but we were not able to really contribute. We were not able to be in a part of those discussions. And so we know that 90% of what we import or what we consume, we import. We know that US is our deepest trading partner. So to even be not eligible to participate in a discussion with one of our major trading partners is almost an interesting one to accept. And so it is, how do we be able to have the ability to be part of these discussions? Does it matter to us that we're part of these discussions? And so I think that's what the Green Paper invites, is us to have an understanding about where we truly are outside of Bermuda's shores. It can be very limiting if we only took Bermuda's context into consideration. If we imagine that, okay, when we travel to other jurisdictions, where is Bermuda's voice in these conversations? What are the sorts of things that actually speak for us? What are the mechanisms that currently speak for us, and where we may be able to be best suited speaking for ourselves? Bermuda as a country has evolved. We are, doing well. We're advancing AI in terms of infrastructure. We've moved the data, the DABA, Digital Asset Business Act, which allows for digital asset and businesses to be registered under a regulatory authority that is sound and reputable. Where is our voice able to be advocated for in forms that are decision-making bodies? And so I think that is what deepening our ties with CARICOM is seeking to achieve. And I think that it invites the public to consider this in advance of a crisis, in advance of a place where we're then reacting. I wouldn't have foreseen at the start of this journey to create the Green Paper that we will be now on, the cusp of World War III. And so again, it invites us to consider how we cannot react like we reacted, to the shipping threats that happened the latter part of 2025, where we're then having to scramble and figure out, okay, well, if our supply routes and our tariffs are now going to impact us, what are we going to do now? And I think we have an opportunity to proactively consider how to deepen our standing, deepen our voice, deepen things that are best for us, and be ahead of the game in some regard. And so that's how I would, in long and in short, respond to that question.
Yes. I want to take this question from the audience because I think it's relevant to something you mentioned, which is, excluding British inherited memberships, how many international bodies does Bermuda belong to, and how many require a Green Paper? What is the difference between these bodies and CARICOM? Because you mentioned we need to be able to represent ourselves in international spaces, and we do in some instances. But can you talk a little bit more about that?
So I will be honest and say I don't know the number of bodies that we are members or associate members of, and I will seek to get that answer and communicate it out. But I do know that it is not common even for other jurisdictions who seek to deepen memberships with organizations and global kind of forums to have to do this green paper, white paper route. It is not common. If you look at their journeys, they didn't have to travel this road. But I do appreciate that in our context, just as we have right-sized, in terms of, we talked about the immigration framework, we have to right size it for our context. I accept that the green paper route has been right sized for our context. It was requested. The public deserve information, and I don't think that there's any intention for the government to just make a decision. And I think we want to be able to bring Bermudians along the journey. I think as we've evolved again as a country, it is important that we also evolve our understanding about how we can better influence on a global level and also strengthen our domestic standing. We are reliant on the traditional routes, the traditional paths that have always been traveled and never really been reimagined. And so I think this is an opportunity to say, how can we relook at these sectors? There's nothing that has not evolved in this world. And so this is about evolving our membership, evolving the way that we honor us as Bermudian people and the things that we have in terms of our value, and also how we honor other countries and their value, and the acceptance that doing things individually only gets us but so far. But if we were to travel together, we could actually go a lot further. And so if there are things that they have done more successfully than we have, why not learn from them? We have done things like the DABA legislation more successfully than them. So they are learning from us. They are seeking to understand how we've been able to evolve that domestically and have invited us on working groups. But again, these working groups are, we have a kind of associate and kind of supporter role, but not a dominant role in an industry that we have dominated on a global stage already. And so it doesn't hurt to contribute, and it doesn't hurt to also see how it can be beneficial to us as well.
I want to take this one more question because I think this is a crucial question that comes up a lot, I think, with CARICOM. The green paper sounds like associate membership would suit us better until we become independent. Are we doing this to force independence? And my follow-up question to that would be, the green paper laid out a lot of disadvantages of associate membership. How would you respond to people who say, if full membership doesn't succeed, should we question our engagement with CARICOM altogether?
Well, I think the reason why even the green paper has taken a route that is not just specifically dollars and cents, it actually acknowledges our historical ties, which ordinarily would have been divorced from such a conversation, is the fact that they must be considered together. I can only speak to my personal journey, and I'll go into the substantive portion of the question about independence and the like. But I have to acknowledge the fact that for my personal journey with a father who's from St. Kitts, I did not actually know myself until I knew about that side of my historical roots and family. And so it is around acknowledging our history, acknowledging parts of us that have always existed that we perhaps have not discussed as of late, and also acknowledging that the better that we know ourselves, the more that we can actually be rooted in who we are. So that's one part of it. The second part is around, are we better suited as associate members? And I would actually say, are we best suited just not evolving? Is that the question? That we should just stay where we are? Is that what I'm invited to consider? And so I think what the question for the public is not really around independence, it's around how do we seek to evolve as a country? How do we seek to ensure that what we do have to offer is considered and counted? I've attended forums where associate members and overseas territories are also represented alongside heads of other governments. And the way that our head of government is acknowledged versus the way that their head of governments are acknowledged is a vast contrast. And I think that it doesn't serve us to not be, and it's not just about, amenities and things, it's around even just access, just they are treated completely differently. They are given a level of respect that we are not, and that's just a fact. And I think that we deserve the respect that our jurisdiction has worked really hard for. We would brag to others, and we would say to those who wonder, who have never heard about Bermuda, we're the third richest country in the world, or these are things that we would use very quickly. But then how does that show up in the context of international fora? How does that show up in the context of anything that is not actually just us here in Bermuda, with others benefiting from what actually is so great and successful here in Bermuda? I think we must be invited to evolve and rethink the way that we've seen even ourselves. And this green paper is just one organization. There are other organizations that too have reached out and want to, uh, uh, see how we can also figure out how we can deepen our relationships as well. We met with trying to remember the name of the organization, but we were in Dubai recently. She said, well, great, like you're deepening ties with CARICOM, like let's have discussion about what that looks like for Bermuda with our organization as well. And I think it's the OAS as well. So that is the way that I think we should be thinking about it. They are looking at climate specifically. How do we figure out how we can successfully navigate climate financing? We have a strong financial jurisdiction. We can support and also gain from those discussions as well. So I think it's just an evolution of where we currently are. It represents the future of Bermuda versus current state, and it doesn't actually decide for us, but for the fact that we can't just stay where we are. It just invites us to move a step forward. Whatever that looks like, we will be invited and we will be guided by what the public shares in terms of the feedback. But no decision has been made, but this is an invitation to reimagine current state.
All right, gonna go to the audience. Audience, if you have any questions or comments, you could keep them coming. We've got Charles H. Jeffs II is asking, given Bermuda's geographic location, will that hinder us from experiencing the full benefits of full CARICOM membership? If so, has consideration been given to a reduced fee for full membership?
Yeah, so the reality is that any potential membership evolution will require negotiation with CARICOM. We have presented to them the ways that we can positively engage, the way that we can carry out the spirit of the treaty provisions, and have invited them to provide us with their feedback. The geographical, which would then conclude, let me just finish that sentence, which would then conclude that the full membership based on our full membership fees based on our current standing would not be concluded, absolutely. But I would say that they have invited, and some of the islands have said, how can we engage with greater flights and greater routes in terms of considering Bermuda in the future? How do we, get Bermudians to come to our cultural events? And these are the types of discussions that I think can make our geographical location almost obsolete in some ways, not erode the fact that we accept that we are, geographically placed further north than the other Caribbean islands, but it also invites the fact that we can reimagine our flight routes, reimagine those sorts of discussions that say we can maybe go and have a flight or charters that go with regularity to Caribbean islands to ensure that we can still stay connected. We currently attend the heads of government meeting twice annually. What are the other types of fora that we can also attend with greater regularity and frequency?
All right, I'm going to go through the audience, back to the audience. We've got two similar questions, but Restless Native says, always being members of CARICOM make my life and Bermudians' life better. But also we've got Donna Marie Bell saying many people with West Indian deep roots fled the West Indies for a better life in Bermuda. Why would we return to what we fled?
Okay, I mean, again, I think we have evolved as countries, we have evolved as people. I did speak to earlier the fact that we have navigated and also we've done things successfully in our shores, and they too have done things successfully in theirs. They have a 20 by 25 agricultural strategy. How do we consider how that will work in our context so that we too can enhance our food security, for example? Do we think it's acceptable that we import 90% of what we consume? And so when we talk about how do we make our life better, again, it's an opportunity to reimagine our current level of dependence. The fact that we are impacted by this potential world war, the oil we import, I think 75% of our fuel is imported. To what extent are we going to consider how we can strengthen the way that we can not be so impacted by these global events? I don't think that we can completely divorce the impact, but I think we can get a little stronger so that we're not importing 90% of what we consume, so that we can address cost of living, so that goods at the store and at the register are cheaper. And so I think, again, it's about acknowledging the history, but also recognizing that we have evolved as people. And because we've evolved, we can look at this relationship differently. And so that's what this invitation to reading the Green Paper explores.
That's a tough one for me, man. The term "fled" just comes across.
Yeah,
And I just want to say that I've observed the comments and the questions, and even just on the internet, and mindset wise, this green paper's up against it, and this is not to criticize anyone's mindset, because all of us thought some way, previously, right? We evolve, or at least we hope we do. When you hear stuff like this, it's going to take more than a green paper to get through it. Number one, and the truth is, I mean, it's no disrespect, but people don't read. So how do you engage with people when they're not going to read the green paper? That number one. Number two, they're shifting a mindset. I've noticed just from doing this show and the prior radio experience is not easy because people feel how they feel, regardless of what information's before them. Like, we have probably more access to information than at any time in history today. What is the government doing to really meet people where they are? And I don't say that to be disrespectful, but really help to embrace the mindset, but to educate that mindset in hopes of changing that mindset.
Agreed, and I acknowledge that. I think in many ways this conversation is uncomfortable, and I acknowledge that. I also acknowledge that change is unfamiliar or can be a road that is met with resistance. I accept that too. I think that it does us a disservice if we are not thinking about things differently. We pass laws, we're legislators, right? So we're evolving current state every single day. We are using new technology every single day. And so this is an evolution in the way that we've always thought, and it is taking us a little further. It is building on the work of those who have been having this conversation actually for a long time, perhaps in silos, perhaps in comfortable fora. But I think I am comfortable, and I acknowledge the fact that the Green Paper is a national conversation. I also accept that we will have to do what we can to meet people where they are. We intend to have town halls. We intend to put out, things that reach people wherever they are finding their content, whether it be social media, whether it be the newspaper, whether it be, coming online to do a live, whatever it takes to inform people, we will do that. But people have to also be willing to receive. They have to be willing to be informed. They have to be willing to suspend whatever they thought was the truth and say, is there anything that could be also more true, or make whatever I believe to be the truth more true? And I think, these are the types of conversations that are helpful. It allows us to also grow collectively as a community. Even if you don't ultimately decide or agree with, full membership or deepening our ties, if you are more informed, then we've done our job. If you are more informed about where Bermuda's standing is the threats that actually do exist by way of us importing 90% of what we consume. That fact alone against the third richest country in the world is one that is challenging. Does that invalidate that statistic at all? And so how do we ensure that we are also evolving in terms of how we think about ourselves as people, how we do business? Business as usual is shifting. We're using technology a lot. And so because of that, because of the access to information, there's actually no excuse also to be uninformed. There's no excuse to not have an understanding about things that are happening around us. And so the green paper is just one mechanism, one way on the start of this journey that I don't accept will be easily consumed. I don't accept will be, wholesale accepted or even just agreed with. I invite the strategic consideration of other ways that we haven't considered. I invite critique. I invite informed discussion. I don't invite things that are rooted in fact, fiction rather. I invite discussions that are rooted in fact. Tell me about an article that you've read about in the world or somewhere else that impacts this discussion. Tell me about what you've done to bring your piece to this discussion, because that's how we can collectively make informed decisions. The government has just started. I don't think the green paper is perfect. We've tried to tinker with it for far too long, but it was time, and I do acknowledge that, and so we had to begin this journey. And again, it's a start.
Before you ask your final question, I just wanted to share a couple of things. Sean Smith says, that sounds like black on black classism. Bermuda thinks they're better than their family to the south of us. And then Sankofa Bermuda says, Bermudians, please research your history from Bermuda's establishment in the 1600s, because we did not arrive in Bermuda on the Carnival Fun Ship or on all you can eat buffet sipping tea. And then we have Dr. Anthony Richardson. He says it's shocking that in 2026, segments of our population still has the mindset anti-Caribbean. Does the government plan to produce commercials showing the benefits of CARICOM? I mean, to arrest that mindset. And I think you kind of shared just now.
Yeah. Yes, I'll begin with the last question or the comment, because it's the first one that's top to mind. Yes, we will do communications to reach people where they are. We will try to do commercials, do social media, do FAQs. We do have the website. I do acknowledge some people were having some challenges getting on, and I think it was just the demand, which is good, which means people are seeking to understand more about what the government is trying to do. We will resolve those. Again, it has not been a perfect process, and it won't be perfect, but I do invite Grace to understand more, ask strategic questions, come informed, and better evolve our way of thinking as a community. I think you gave me 3 different questions. One was around Bermuda thinks it's better than the other Caribbean island, and it's true. These are types of things that I have to acknowledge. When I was young, I too was like, I'm not Caribbean, but the reality is, we were founded, and so what does that mean? Is there a Bermudian that was actually organically here before? No, we were all brought here. So because we acknowledge that fact, then we have to ask, well, what are the other journeys that we may have traveled before? And if we go back to that, we get to the truth of kind of who we are as people. And I think that is the sub desire for this conversation, understanding and deepening our understanding as people, as who we are as Bermudians, leaning into that Bermudian true historical and culture that we actually have. I went to St. Kitts recently. Many will know, I looked at their culture dancer and I'm like, how could I close my eyes to the fact that this looks so much like the gumbe? Like, am I really going to sit here and say, nope, this is nothing at all? The drum beat is nothing like what we have here in Bermuda. So I guess that is a cultural influence that we must acknowledge, and also acknowledge that this is not just us absorbing into an organization that is also imperfect. CARICOM is imperfect as well, but it doesn't mean that we can't grow together with them. And also find me an organization that is perfect.
Exactly. Okay, so my final question is a bit double-sided. So I think a lot of people would be interested in hearing what will the people of Bermuda ultimately how will the people of Bermuda ultimately decide if we pursue full membership? Will it be through a referendum or general election, or will it just be a policy initiative as it currently stands? And then the other side of that is what I think a lot of people don't understand about this is that even if we agree to pursue full membership as a country, that doesn't necessarily mean that CARICOM will accept us. So what has been the reception from the CARICOM members that we've spoken to? Have they been receptive to us joining? And what benefits do they see of us becoming members?
These are long questions. I'm just trying to remember them. Okay, so you the first question you asked is around you have to represent it. I'm sorry.
Will we get an opportunity to vote on it by referendum or general election?
Let me acknowledge that. So on the government has not stated that it will pursue a referendum. Referendums are very, very expensive, but it does not mean no, we will never do this. But what I will say is that the way that we're seeking to engage the public is informed by our journey to date, and it also will give indication of how we will continue on in the days and months ahead. And that is informed by the fact that we took a omnibus fourth quarter survey. We added a question to their quarterly survey and understood the baseline sentiment of what Bermudians either understood about CARICOM or saw was beneficial for our membership. And that gave us, food security and, diversifying our economy and all these sorts of things were listed before we even began a communications effort. Likewise, on the togetherforcaricom.gov.bm website, we have surveys which will invite feedback from the public. We will have forums like town halls and other types of public consultation for which will have included in it survey metrics and an opportunity to provide data to better inform the white paper and the next steps ahead. And so I'm not committing to a referendum, but what I am saying is that we will have data to inform the next steps. We will find other ways, because there are multiple ways that we can get data, public sentiment, and also an indication of direction. And so we will do that. We will deploy surveys, we'll deploy these sorts of third-party validators and or statistical instruments to ensure that we do have greater insight in terms of what the Bermudians then understand and feel based on our communications effort, what they then will understand about the government's intentions. And then you asked about the reception in CARICOM. Part of what I have done since becoming minister, I want to also acknowledge the previous Minister of Home Affairs, the Honorable Walter Raban, and the work that he also did to deepen and also evolve our ties with CARICOM, and say that I'm building on the work that he has done and had conversations since becoming minister, specifically with the heads of government, to understand what their concerns are. And they all are saying, look, we're more than willing to, embrace Bermuda. We acknowledge you as our own. The Prime Minister of St. Kitts more recently said, they recently received a letter in Parliament for the first time in a while, and the letters invited invitation and consideration for the Petition government to find ways that those who have Petition roots can have greater connectivity. And they said that that was received from a Bermudian. And he went back to say, have we ever received a letter like this before in our parliament? And they said, not in a really long time, but it was sent from a Bermudian. They are advancing their legislative reforms to be able to go an additional generation so that those who have Petition roots can apply for Petition citizenship. And so I think that is a hand stretched out in some ways, which says that they are willing to embrace what has been here before us. And if you can prove an additional generation, then they're willing to consider it. And I know that they are seeking to advance that through Parliament in this upcoming year. But I think this is around the fact that we are not the only country that is being invited to evolve. Our standing is different from theirs, but this is what they're doing, and we too should reconsider, reimagine our current state.
All right, Minister, quite a few people in the audience are asking, how can they get a copy of this green paper? They like a hard copy, says Suzanne Ingham, so I can make notes on it as I read it. But then you have she's just asking for access. So
yes. So the green paper can be downloaded at Together for CARICOM, so spelled all out, together, FOR, CARICOM.gov.bm. It can be downloaded and printed. We had considered not printing any just because we have tried to limit the printed hard copies. I will discuss with the team. I don't want to commit to anything on this live stream that they are angry with me about thereafter, but we will explore what quantities we may be able to print and may not be able to, but people can get them and download them online, make, write notes online through the virtual copy.
All right. Before you head out, based on some of the comments and throughout social media since yesterday and now, obviously, you've got your work cut out.
Yes.
I know Tosh just asked about a referendum. I've already said, and I'll continue to say it. I have no interest in getting into politics, so I don't have to worry about people voting for me or not. So I don't believe in democracy as it stands, as it is, because I don't believe that. I'll give you two examples. I don't believe that when certain members of the One Bermuda Alliance were saying conscription should go to a referendum, no, because it only impacts certain people. I don't believe that same-sex marriage, things like that, should ever be a referendum. People's rights, because it doesn't involve everyone per se. For this, they may say, well, this involves everybody, right? And it should go to referendum. But is the government prepared to make the unpopular decision? Because I've said on this show, the referendum happened in February 2025, right? Is the government prepared, and feel free if you're not prepared to answer that right now, to make a decision regardless of whether it's popular or not?
So what I would say is this green paper is the start of our journey. I think we will be informed by what we hear. There are surveys that will be on the website, and we'll invite public sentiment. We want to bring Bermudians along the journey with us. We have won convincingly at the polls, which then would lead me to believe that the public is in support of the direction that the government is seeking to take the country in. I would not say that that will conclude absolutely the ways that we make future decisions, but I will say that we are inviting Bermudians to come along the journey with us, be more informed. That we are getting to a stage in this world where being uninformed is almost unacceptable, and so I want Bermudians to be informed. I want them to understand the direction that we're trying to go in. I want them to understand that we're trying to deepen, diversify, reimagine current state, reimagine supply chains, reimagine our trade relationships. And because of that, we want to be able to not just be informed in a room making a decision. We want Bermudians to respond, engage. It will be, really unfortunate if we don't get engagement from the public on such a matter. And I think that will inform the next steps for sure.
I just want to address one more thing, because I think we have to, and it wouldn't be me if I didn't say this. Between 2014 and 2017, there was a push to get more people into Bermuda. And right now it's just shocking, hypocritical, interesting. Give me some more adjectives, please. But it's weird and strange that some of the same people who were advocating for more people are now concerned. And the only thing I can put it down to is some of the comments from the mindset we see of who these people would be today that would be allowed. Now, I'm not telling you to speak on it, but you're a minister. I'm pretty sure that this has crossed your mind.
It has.
Well, what are your thoughts on that? Because how can we be for immigration and bringing more people, not even 10 years ago, but now, because of the kind of people, right, it seems, it shows up as a problem. We're not talking about that enough.
I think you raise a very pertinent point. And I also will put it back on those who believe and have these sorts of ideals, I will not really cater to them in terms of providing a rationale for this sort of thought. But what I will say is that the onus is on them to make it make sense.
Exactly.
Fair enough. I'm just saying it comes across very. Is the word disingenuous, Taj?
Yes, definitely disingenuous. Duplicitous,
Yeah.
misplaced, uneducated. Any of those, I think, fit.
Yeah. Before you head out, Minister, again, the green papers available on togetherforcaricom.gov.bn.
.bm, yes, spelled all out.
Are there going to be any like one-on-one, not one-on-one, but to people like town halls specifically often? How often? Where will they take place? Where people can actually get to ask questions directly?
Absolutely. So we're refining our comms calendar and dates just for some locations. We're just tinkering with the final details, but we will release that. It will be on the website. We'll put it on social media. We'll see what we can do to do, advertising in other places that the public knows and is aware. We'll use the government of Bermuda's forums to ensure that people know when these events are taking place. The short answer is yes. We will have town halls, and I invite people to come informed with their information. Don't come just to complain. Come and say, this is what I understood. Is this correct? This is what I, don't understand. Can you explain? That's the type of conversation we want to have. We don't want to have a complaint session, but we do invite your concerns. We invite your concerns. Don't misinterpret that. But I know that there are sometimes these forums where we haven't sought to be informed first. We just come with our emotions. And I invite a conversation about information. I invite conversation about what you've read, what you've understood, and how we can clarify it and have a greater understanding together.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead, Tosh.
I was just going to add to that and say, I think a lot of people place the onus on government to be educated and knowledgeable and have the answers. And I think, yes, they have some responsibility to educate, but ultimately people have to do their own homework. People have to read the 63 pages. But if it wasn't 63 pages, people would be saying it's not detailed enough. And people are saying it's not detailed enough, and it's 63 pages. So I encourage people to read it and really come informed, because that's the only way we can have a policy conversation, is if you actually read it and not just talk about what you heard on social media or what you heard secondhand from those who are perhaps against the policy.
But don't just read it. I'm going to add to that. Try to comprehend it. And if you don't understand it, like I did, if I don't understand, I'm asking, I'm screenshotting, I'm sending, because and the final thing I'll say before the minister heads out, read it with an open mind.
Yeah.
If you're going in to read it with your, like, I already feel this way, and you're probably going to come out thinking the same. I'm not saying that you have to agree with it by any means. Honestly, there are things, and to me, there are legitimate questions that people have. And that's why at the town halls, you'll have the opportunity, hopefully, to ask these questions and get the answers that you seek. Minister, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm sure there'll be many more conversations about the topic, among others.
Definitely. I appreciate both of your time. And I invite future conversations. Again, I am also accessible. Ask me questions, share your concerns directly, either on my social media or even, through the Ministry of Home Affairs. I don't run from these sorts of discussions. I invite them, and I want us to be evolved together, have a greater understanding together. And, I think our role, if I may just give a final commentary, is that our role as leaders is also to do our best to ensure that when we make decisions, it is representative of the thought of those in the community. If we don't get their thoughts, if we don't have their, and just do the work by ourselves and just, give our perspective alone, then, it makes it very difficult. This is supposed to be an evolved conversation. This is supposed to be a mechanism where we represent the views that are shared from the public, the views that are shared from those who are informed and concerned, so that we can evolve our understanding. We can make more informed decisions. Informed decisions doesn't mean the government sits in a room and, gets all the research that it can. It means that based on what we understand, we share it with the public, they provide feedback, it evolves our understanding, and we have that sort of dance in terms of our even relationship. It is not just about, when there's an election, we're soliciting your view or your concerns. We're soliciting them consistently. So the reason for us coming on these forums is to invite greater input, and so I think that is at the core of this. There isn't a conclusion that has been decided. We haven't decided anything. We just know that we must evolve. And so if we start with that baseline and acceptance that everything else is evolved, then we can have a conversation about where do we go from here. Right?
Thank you so much, Minister.
Thank you. Have a great day. Okay. Take care.
The Honorable Minister Alexa Lightbourne, folks, if you appreciated that conversation and you're streaming with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, or Instagram, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share it with everyone you know, because these conversations, again, it's not what the government wants. Ultimately, it's what the people want. We're going to take our final break. We're going to wrap it up after this. And I have a question. The Daily Play. It's a remember when. I don't know if Taj, he might need help, audience. Stick with us.
Dreaming of expanding your business? With BDC's Loan Guarantee Program, we support your ambitions. Get up to 75% guarantee on bank or credit union loans up to $300,000. Just your vision and our support. Apply today and unlock new business opportunities. BDC, Bermuda business starts here.
Looking for the best care for your pets? Novazog Feed and Supply has everything you need, from top quality foods to toys and supplies. We've got it all. Join our frequent buyer program and earn rewards every time you shop. Plus, we've been awarded the Clever Customer Initiative program for helping you save more. And don't forget, we open an hour early on Saturdays so you can get a head start on your pet care. Visit us today or shop online for easy pickup or delivery. Your pets will thank you.
For over 70 years, Bermuda Pest Control has been protecting homes and businesses island-wide. We offer a full suite of services, including rodent control, termite fumigation, and general insect control and maintenance. Our team of experts will quickly and efficiently eliminate any pest problem you may have. With Bermuda Pest Control, you can enjoy a pest-free home in no time. We're committed to providing fast, reliable, and solution-driven services for our customers. It's what we've been doing since 1952. Call Bermuda Pest Control today and say goodbye to pests for good.
Every space has a message, whether it's a store, a government office, or a doctor's waiting room. With Store Tunes Radio, transform your environment with customized music and professional messaging that keeps people informed, engaged, and at ease. Easy to use, built for organizations of every kind. Powered by Bermuda Communications Group. Store Tunes Radio, the soundtrack to better customer experiences. Visit StoreTunesRadio.com to learn more.
The Office of Consumer Affairs protects residents by promoting fairness, safety, and transparency in the marketplace across the island. We investigate complaints, manage recalls, educate the public, and enforce consumer protection laws to ensure fair treatment for all. Our team supports consumers by resolving disputes, providing guidance, and helping residents understand their rights and responsibilities. We work with businesses to encourage compliance, ethical practices, and trust, helping create a stable and competitive economy. Through education, enforcement, and outreach, Consumer Affairs helps keep Bermuda's marketplace safe, informed, and accountable.
Alrighty, welcome back to the Big Show. Thanks again to the Honorable Minister Alexa Lightbourne, Minister of Home Affairs, stopping by to speak about CARICOM and the Green Paper. Taj Dunville Outerbridge, I'm Jamal Harpness, the Daily Big up to our partners, the BAC group of companies, HSBC, Bermuda, Medical House Lenders, People's Pharmacy, and big love to Hot 1075 for ensuring we can pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations. Folks, if you haven't already and you are streaming with us, please make sure you give us a like, love, follow, share the link with your friends, family, and colleagues. Help us beat the algorithm so everyone you know has access to these most important community conversations. It is now time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. New sports edition. Check it out at People's Pharmacy right now. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. All right. Are you ready, Tosh?
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready, audience? Here we go. What 90s sitcom originally started with the alternative name Good Morning, Miss Bliss?
I would not know that. Is it a black sitcom? No. I don't know.
So remember when, and I knew someone would get.
Oh, Saved by the Bell.
Stacey and Julie, Saved by the Bell. Yeah.
Before my time.
In the 90s, it was originally called Good Morning, Miss Bliss. Yeah. Saved by the Bell, Sean Smith. Yeah, we could tell who Saved by the Bell is back then. Did you, I mean, you were born in the 2000s. Did you ever know about Saved by the Bell?
I've heard of it, but I've never watched it.
Okay. Yeah, that was a classic, man. The question was, Anika the Shields asking what the question it was. What 90s sitcom originally started with the alternative name Good Morning, Miss Bliss? And the answer is Saved by the Bell. Yep, Saved by the Bell. All right, Tosh, we got to wrap it up. Yeah, because you and the minister talk a lot. Final thoughts on this morning's discussion about education authority and then the conversation with the Honorable Minister.
Yeah, I can keep it short. I think education reform is necessary. I think the question is what and how. And if we're all involved, I think that's the answer. And I think there needs to be more continuous planning. Like, I think that is the core issue for a lot of programs with the government. Is there doesn't seem to be any continuous planning, no evolutionary planning. No stage-by-stage planning. Because like I said, the Hopkins report in 2007 recommended stuff that could have alleviated a lot of the problems we have today. So I think what needs to happen is the government needs to go back and look at those reports and see what recommendations came out of them that could work and would work, instead of going with a whole new education authority. Now, what I'll say about the conversation with the minister, I think the minister was very forthcoming, very transparent on where the government is at on these issues. But like she said, and like me and Jamal said, this decision hasn't been made yet, and it requires the public to get engaged, that the government knows how you feel. So use those forums that the government has set up, and once again, not just to critique and to give grievances, but to give informed discussion about, okay, maybe if we don't go with CARICOM, what else could we do? What else could fill those gaps? Like, let's think about it that way rather than just, this is wrong. Because what governments do is they come up with ideas, they see what works, and they pivot. If it don't work, they pivot to something else. So that's what governments do. And I'll say that this is a refreshing conversation for me, especially from this government. And I just hope, going back to the education piece, that the Honorable Senator Crystal Caesar, the Minister of Education, is able to come on this show, or any other show for that matter, and have a conversation about education, because I think people need to hear what's happening with education.
Yeah, indeed. I echo you with the education authority. I'll say this much, as I said earlier, an authority hasn't proven successful with the Bermuda tourism product, and I am weary of it doing anything differently in education. What we need is to enact some of the recommendations that were made nearly 2 decades ago. I'm not quite sure that an authority is the answer, but if it does move forward, I'm happy to be proven wrong. As far as the conversation with the minister regarding the CARICOM Green Paper, I don't believe in telling people how to think or what to think. I don't. What I will share is how I think and why I think the way I do. What I do think is the government is up against it based on the mindset that people have. It's a lot of work to do. But what I'm realizing is that the conditioning over centuries still impacts us so deeply, that so many of us for generations have been taught and told things that are just not true. And you may think Bermuda's this rich country. That's the country. That's not you as individuals. Let's be clear about that. Many of the people you're looking down on in those jurisdictions, they can feed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We can't. So I think we need a reality check. We need a severe reality check. And we need to humble ourselves. Real quickly, before you do the daily inspiration, Taj, Dr. Anthony Richardson just wants us to remind everyone of Bermuda time change. Yes, the clocks did go forward this past weekend, audience. So if you're in the UK, please know that we are an hour earlier. Yes, an hour earlier than you for at least 2 weeks. All right. Taj, you got some daily inspiration for the audience?
Yes, my daily inspiration is a quote from the book Decolonize the Mind. The biggest weapon wielded and actually daily unleashed by imperialism against the collective defiance is the cultural bomb. The effect of the cultural bomb is to annihilate a people's belief in their names, in their languages, in their environment, in their heritage of struggle, in their unity, in their capacity, and ultimately in themselves. It makes them see their past as a wasteland of non-achievement, and it makes them want to distance themselves from that wasteland.
Appreciate that. I hope that hits home with some folks who tuned in today. I really folks, don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, HSBC Bermuda, Medical House Lindos, People's Pharmacy, and big love to Hot 1075 for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. Taj Don Bridge. I'm Jamal Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great day. We are is out. Peace.